Kristy's gonna make the call. She is in position. 5-7-7. Kristy flop quads. And Candy with an overpair of kings. She's got to be loving her hand right now.
Hey guys, I hope you are doing well. It is a crazy time. Why is my chair spinning the wrong way? So earlier this year, right before live poker just went away, I played a couple of sessions at Live the Bike. They were like just so polar opposite in how they went. I thought it would make a good story. So this in part one is going to show you what poker looks like when everything, why is my chair, okay. What happens in poker when you are running well, playing well, and everything goes right? That's part one. But don't think I'm bragging, because part two is gonna show you what happens when everything goes wrong. So in early January, I took a trip to the Aussie Millions with my husband, and we stayed with one of my best friends, Lynn Gilmartin, and her boyfriend, Angel Guillen.
Just call me Captain LJ.
And we had a great time. We talked poker, we played the whole time, and I cashed into events. I made a final table in the Aussie Millions 6 max event. I placed 6th. So when I flew home, I was feeling, well, I was like, I'm a big deal. So on the way back, I decided I want to play Live at the Bike. It was a 5-10 no limit hold'em game with a 3K max. So let's check out the session. All right, so I'm pulling shit up. While I am, I just want to say that I told you I was feeling good walking into the session. Well, I want to explain to you this idea, this concept called priming. And this idea is basically that your environment and your feelings and your state of mind inform your future decisions. So, something to keep in mind. Alright, so let's get into the footage. So here's the first time they show the chip counts. Max already won a hand. I bought in for 3K. A couple other people bought in for 3K or 2,500 and 2,000. So the first hand we're talking about here is seat 6 raises to 60. Justin calls in the cutoff, and I'm on the button with pocket jacks, so I 3-bet to 225. I had just 3-bet the hand before, so I don't know if that's playing into anyone's mind, but Candy cold calls from the straddle, which is the $20 straddle. She cold calls.
Candy in the straddle calls with 8s.
So we're heads up to the flop, and the flop is Queen 3-4, 3-4 of clubs, and she checks. Now I could certainly bet my hand, but I think a jacks is a good check back, because I think I would bet 10s or lower for value and protection. I'd bet at my queens, most of my queens, maybe check back also my worst queens, and overpairs aces and kings. And I think jacks is also a good check back, a medium strength check back. Then on the turn, an offsuit king, and she checks quickly. When thinking about her range to just cold call a 3-bet out of position, she probably has something like ace king, ace queen, or a pocket pair. So I don't think that there's any need to bet the turn. And then on the offsuit 6 river with her check, we can pretty squarely put her on a pocket pair, because she would at least think about maybe even betting ace queen for small value herself. So I was thinking, what would a small pair call? So I bet really tiny, going for value, 150, and we get a call. Now this is one of those things where when you go into a session and you're focused, you are squeezing out any value you can. That is the great thing about going into a session like this.
Called by worse. Nice hand there for Kristy.
And then after that, I play a couple pots. I played a hand where I turned to pair, and I easily just check folded to a straight. It's really easy to make folds when you're running good, playing good. And then the next hand, I, raise, flop top pair, c-bet, everybody folds. Poker's so easy when it's like this. This hand, 2 players limped, and I made it 150 in the hijack with pocket 7s.
Hey, all barnyard animals are welcome here.
And Kristy kind of stepping at it here. Raises 150 with 7s. Candy with kings. Hiracha had just limped in with jacks.
Just to get some confirmation that this is...
Candy makes it 455. Now it's back onto Hiracha, who just limped in with jacks.
Again, I'm between the ladies. I don't mean you.
While we're thinking, I'm just thinking like, okay, what did he limp with now that he's going to call 455? This is strange, but okay.
Wow, Hiracha gets away from it.
Then when it folds to me, I'm thinking a couple things. 1, what are our stacks? Okay, we're pretty deep, at least 3K deep. 2, how much do I have to call? I'm getting a decent price. 3, who is this player and what is their range? How am I doing against their range? I think that she would 3-bet with ace king. Of course,
Kristy's
bigger
gonna make the
pocket
call.
pairs. And what I also know
She is in
is that when
position.
she has a good hand, she doesn't like to fold. So in position, deep enough stacks with pocket 7s, I'm thinking let's flop a 7 against an overpair. It would be so fun. Party. And then boom.
577. Kristy flop quads. And Candy with an overpair of kings. She's got to be loving her hand right now.
People who don't make good jokes and are they like the same joke guy, they'll say, I got 2 pair, 2 7s, 2 7s, 7s. We in the biz, though, we like to call them quads. I flopped quads.
So you got to go with that.
When she c-bets 600, there's really only one option, which is to call. There's no reason to do anything else when we are in position, especially versus this size. So we call. But of course, we're just thinking about Vegas and the motherfucking Mirage. On the turn, when the board pairs a 5, she checks. And with about 1,600 behind, I'm just thinking, what can I bet on the turn that is going to be irresistible for her to call, but also leaves a small enough bet behind that by the time we get to the river, she's just really not going to want to fold any kind of overpair. So I bet 600 and she calls. And when the river is an offsuit queen, nothing left to do but shove and just love it. She's getting 5-1. It's really hard to fold kings. And we get a full double on the quads. And the hands just keep on coming tonight. So there were a few limpers, and I am in the small blind with pocket jacks. And I raise it up to 165.
Makes it
And
165, and
Carl in the big blind shoves for $905. He's done this many times over the session with far, far worse hands. So, of course, I'm snap calling with jacks, and I'm actually surprised that I'm not more ahead than this coin flip. But you know, when things are going right,
Jack
they're
in the
just
door.
going right.
And as that jack showed up, the whole table was groaning.
And you win races sometimes. And of course, it's fine. Everybody was rooting for him. I would be too if I was sitting in their shoes. You don't want to run. You don't want to root for the one who's just like running so pure. You want to see him get knocked down back to regular status, you know, but not for me this night. Played another quick hand here, just Played another hand here. Justin limped in the hijack, and I raised to 70 and the cutoff with king, queen, O. He called, and the flop was 4-6 deuce. In these positions with wide ranges, I just decided to c-bet and take her down. All right, in this hand, under the gun limps, and I have ace-8 suited under the gun +2. Now, usually, I mean, I don't necessarily recommend limping all the time. I don't know if ace-8 suited is a little bit too loose of an ISO for an under the gun limp, but at the same time, this table is playing super loose, and it was difficult for me to know what I wanted to be doing with my range in this spot in this game. So I decided to just limp behind. A bunch of people limp as well. And the flop comes ace, 4, 3, rainbow. It checks to Justin, who's on my right, the first limper, and he bets 75. I just call. Obviously, my hand isn't good enough to raise, and I'm in position. Just best play is to call.
Unless you want me to stay in for
And it folds to seat 6. He also calls with bottom pair and a backdoor flush draw.
but gives you the same effect.
The turn is an
I like to
ace.
call it Lambian.
Justin bets
And
125. I decide to just call. I don't really put him on many better aces. I think he would raise pre-flop with ace 9, ace 10 or better. He could have pocket 3s or pocket 4s. He probably doesn't have deuce 5. But regardless, I think, especially with how not deep we are, if I decided to try to go for some value against a worse ace, I still could, maybe on the river. So I just call. Then on the river, a river 8, because that's how I be running, I'm like, well, for sure I have the best hand now. If he somehow had a better 8 or a better ace or, 3s or 4s. So he bets the river 380, and I jam for the rest of his stack, which isn't very much. It's like, almost 500. And he pretty quickly calls, and he sees that, the bad news that he got 3-outed by the chick who's been just getting smacked in the face with the deck. It's funny, in the moment, I was like, I just feel so bad for this guy. Like, he did not run well. He looks young. I mean, I wonder how long he's been playing poker. Like, I remember when I was that young playing poker, I did not have that much money. And if I got torched, like taking a shot in this stream game, I would just have my tail between my legs. But then he messaged me on Instagram, and he is a young millionaire entrepreneur. So don't feel bad for him. He's doing all right. He hangs out with like Post Malone. So, yeah. Another hand, I pick up pocket 10s. Limps, I raise. I'd flop tops at what's new. I bet I win. Keep going. Just showing you how it is going. Okay, so at this point in the stream, we have about 45 minutes left. So we're more than 3/4 of the way through. And under the gun +1 limps. Nick under the gun +3 raises to 85. And I'm in the hijack with ace queen offsuit. I decide to just call, and a bunch of people call behind me.
Oh, hold on, it's 50, right? Let me get my cards back.
85 from Nick.
Well, you've seen that happen before.
And I think, did anyone fold? I think one person folded. Oh, excuse me. Goes around to Hiracha, makes it 1,000.
But I think I will get a call somewhere from the right side. Jerry can be.
Show up.
This is probably going to work. No one is that strong. The strongest person was Kristy, and she already folded. She had ace-queen. It's a bit of a tell there of weakness when someone is
Hi.
telling you how much they have behind.
Hi, hello. How are you doing, sir?
What's up?
Good,
I
how are
noticed
you?
you
The
have
weather is
cards.
perfect, right? Right
Unfortunately,
here.
Mac only has 6-3.
Yes.
I fucking knew it. I knew it.
Everybody knows it, but never call me, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
And Hiracha just called it out. It says everyone knows it, but they don't call me.
So this hand, okay, so obviously you've seen I've been running good, hitting cards, playing well also, and I was up a lot. Well, there's this thing that happens and it's called up tilts. When you're up a lot, there's a part of you that doesn't want to lose it back, right? So I think that definitely happened this hand. Although when I was playing it, I thought to myself, oh, I call here sometimes. I don't 3-bet ace queen. Oh, I think it's fine to mix it up some. Usually I would 3-bet, and then when it came around and that guy made a huge 3-bet, I was like, oh yeah, remember that hand when he limp folded jacks? Even though my gut, even though I knew, even though everything that told me that I'd ever known about game flow, like I just knew that it wasn't a strong hand. But I told myself it could be okay because remember that one time. But really, it was because I didn't want to risk a lot of chips, which I would have had to when he 3-bets to 900. And I just made it okay in that moment. But now looking back, I definitely see that I had been experiencing up tilt and like a protection of my stack and my win, knowing that the game was gonna break in the next hour. So definitely wish I could have that one back. All right, so as you can see, I ended my session, one of the biggest I've had. It was good.
He has the
What's up,
best
Patrick?
hand here on the turn, but Mello has a double gutter and a flush draw.
That's a pretty gross river.
In this kind of situation with an inflated pot, when you have the second nuts versus the nuts, it's going to be difficult.